Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm glad you're here. And welcome to another Makers with Heart mystery envelope video hop. This month, Julie sent out the mystery envelope and she said that she wants to revisit a challenge we did a while ago and see who can get the highest score. Also, her family just got back from Disneyland, so she had to add in a little Disney components. We have the mouse ears here, and then also some of the Let's Party papers. We'll get 1 point for each paper collection, 1 point for each stamp set, 3 for each technique, and 5 for the Let's Party papers, and 10 if I include Mickey. So I'm going to use 3 stamp sets. I'm going to use the Let's Party scrapbooking, Snow Mice, and Sweet Memories card making. So that gives me 3 points, and then I'll tally more things up at the end of the video. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to make 2 cards. So I'm going to do some ink blending with some oxide inks for both cards. So the first card, I'm going to use Picked Raspberry, and this is going to be a landscape card, so orientation card. So starting with Picked Raspberry at the bottom, and then I'll go into Kutsch Flamingo, and then I'm going to go into Spiced Marmalade. So it'll be kind of a ombre blend, kind of. That pop of orange. So I'm just going to go back and forth until I like the blend. And a lot of this will be covered up, so I'm not too worried about having it perfectly blended. So we'll just go back and forth. I think I like that. Add just a little more Kutsch Flamingo to cover up some of that orange that blended down. And I think we're going to call that good. Okay, so I'm going to stamp some snowflakes around this card in White Daisy, and then I'm going to heat emboss with white embossing powder. So I've got these small snowflakes. I'm kind of just envisioning where my elements will be on the card, so I'm just going to stamp some of these all around the sides here. And then I'll sprinkle some embossing powder on and heat it up and melt that embossing powder. So I just wanted a subtle effect with these snowflakes falling all around my element. Okay, I know these are non-traditional colors. I thought they would be fun. Okay, so this is the Let's Party papers, and I'm going to trim a rectangle to place in the center of my card as a base for my elements, for my sentiment and my stamped image. So I'm just trimming this down, and I don't want it to cover up too much of that ink blended background. I think that'll be good. Okay, so now I am going to stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to use these blocks from Sweet Memories, and I'm going to do the rock and roll technique. Okay, so I'm going to stamp or ink up my stamp in Sundance, and then I'm going to roll the edges around in Flamingo. So it sort of has that Sundance fading out, well, blending out into Flamingo, the 2 colors on one stamped image. Okay, now I'm going to do some masking because the sentiment is in a straight line and I want my words to be stacked so they fit inside this square. So I'm going to use some masking tape, and that will block off some of the words so that only stamps the words that I want, and then I can stack them. You could always cut your stamp, but this is a way to keep the stamp all in one line and just mask things off so that you can make the words however you want them to be. Okay, so I'm just moving around my masking tape and inking up my stamp and figuring out the placement for the next line and then the final line. So I'll have the words "have a flurry of fun" all stacked up in 3 lines instead of 1. And they all fit inside that square. Okay, so I've die cut it off camera with the coordinating thin cuts. And now I'm going to do the mice. So I'm going to stamp out 2 images because I'm going to make 2 cards. So I'm going to just stamp them out at the same time. And I'm inking them up in black ink. And we'll get them stamped out on White Daisy. And then I'm going to add some color to my mice. So I'm going to keep everything in the video, but I'm going to speed it up super fast. Okay, so I'm going to color everything in with tri-blend markers. And we'll just go back and forth and color in the mice. So I'm keeping in mind the ink blended background. So I want my colors for the mouse's hat and coat and mittens to kind of match the colors that I used in the background. So I'm using a variety of oranges and pinks to color in my mouse. So cute. We'll get some color laid down. I'm not doing a lot of ink blending or detail and shading. Just want to lay some color down. And then I've also colored the mouse above. Okay, so we'll get those run through the die cut machine and cut out. So now we have both the elements ready to go for both cards. Okay, so we'll start assembling. First, I'm going to stamp inside my card. So I've taken Happy Birthday from the Let's Party scrapbooking stamp set. And this is sort of rock and roll, but more ombre. It's just a way to get 2 colors on your stamped image. So first I'm inking the top portion of the stamp in Sundance, and then the lower portion in Flamingo to get those 2 colors. And then I'll ink up the word birthday in black. And that's good to go. So that's the inside of my card. Okay, we'll get that folded. And then I'm going to add Mickey inside the card. Okay, so there's my 10 bonus points for having the Mickey ears on my card. Okay, so we'll start assembling. And this is the glue press from the makers of the Misty. It makes it a lot easier to use this precision micro tip glue. And just kind of laying things out. And I feel like that piece of Let's Party pattern paper, it needs something. So I'm going to bring in some black. And I'm kind of cheating here so I don't have to measure. So I'm gluing down that pattern paper onto some black cardstock, and then I'll just trim around it. I feel like it'll pop a little bit better on the background with the black. So get that glued down. And we'll pop the mouse with foam tape. And then I'm looking at that sentiment, and I'm feeling like it's blending a little too much in with that Let's Party paper. So I'm going to bring in some Bluebird ink, and I'm going to sponge around the edges just to give it a little more definition and to separate it from the background. With the white on white, needs a little line of definition there. I'll add that, and then I'll pop the mouse. And then I brought in a clear shimmer brush, and I started coloring in the giant snowball with it. And then I decided off camera to use some stickles on it, some diamond stickles on the snowball instead. So that's what you see in this photo here. And then to finish, a couple of silver glitter gems. And there's my finished card. And that's the inside. Okay, let's make another one. I'm going to skip through a lot of steps. I've already created my ink blended background, so I've used Villainous Potion, Uncharted Mariner, and I can't remember the third color, Salvage Patina. And then I've also stamped out the mouse image with this pile of snowballs, and I've fussy cut the snowballs from that image. So when I stamped, the only thing I focused on stamping was getting a clear image of that pile of snowballs so I could cut them out. And then I'm going to use Wisteria and stamp this sentiment block from the Sweet Memories stamp set. And I'm going to stamp out my sentiment in Journey. And it says Winter Greetings. So we'll get that cut out with the coordinating die. And then I'm going to bring in some of the mix-in papers from January, February catalog. And these have some images. They're in Bluebird, but I think they go well enough with my background, my ink blended background. So I think it's going to work. So I started out first by cutting it at 1.5 by 5 1/4. But I quickly realized that I wouldn't have enough room for my images. So I'm going to trim that down to 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so it's going to be a side border there. And that's going to be the general layout of my card. And then I've got some Journey shimmer trim. So I'm going to cut this at 5 1/4. And then, since I couldn't find my tape runner, I'm just going to use some masking tape to place it along that cut line in my trimmer so that I can cut it in half. So I have a 1/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch of the shimmer trim. So just run the blade up there, and then I've got 2 strips here. Okay, so I'm going to use a 1/4 inch strip of that Journey shimmer trim. And before I start assembling, I'm going to do a little bit of stamping with those little snowflakes again. So I'm going to lay everything out so I know where to stamp. And I'm going to stamp in Journey ink, just do some random stamping all around my little mouse. So it looks like it's snowing. I'm kind of spinning around the stamps so they're in different positions. And we'll have them all around. Okay, now we can do some assembly, and it's basic assembly, just like the last card. This time it's a portrait rather than landscape. And we'll just put everything down with glue. So I'm layering everything up. We'll add that sidebar of mix-ins and a strip of shimmer trim. And then the sentiment strip and the mouse are going to be glued directly to the card front. And then I'll pop the little snowballs. And then off camera, I added some stickles to the snowballs to give them a little shimmer. So that's what you'll see in the photos at the end. So we'll get a tally of all my points. So I've used 3 sets of stamp sets, techniques, ink blending, rock and roll masking. I used less party papers, and I put Mickey on, and I did fussy cutting, and then I used 2 kinds of papers. So my total is, give or take, 32 points. So I'll make a list of all the Makers with Heart mystery envelopes and a playlist at the end, and also you'll find a link in the description below. So check out everyone else's videos and see the cool things they did and how many points they got with all the different rules that Julie created for this month's mystery envelope. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it, and then you'll be able to find all of my videos. And thanks for watching.